Okay. That
John, are you in town?
Work out.
Are you in town, John? No, you got it unmute.
Oh, I see him.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll be here through Thursday.
Okay, good. I'd have to make an ask of council during or somewhere during the meeting. This Supreme Court action is create a little turmoil. Matt's going to talk about it, but it's kind of screwing up our bond issue for the refinancing. So we'll talk about it when we get there. But
Is this something we have to give public notice for, Vince?
you got to do at least 18 hours. Yeah.
All right.
And I forgot, Matt, you were when I was talking to Matt when I left the office at 4:30. I'm talking to him on the phone, and I forgot that Matt's going to be. You're going beginning Wednesday, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I've got Catherine on standby. She already knows if we need a special meeting. She's already ready to go.
All right. All right. That's crazy.
Did we start floating any dates yet, Vince?
Well, you know, the sooner the better. I mean, the pricing for the bonds was scheduled for tomorrow, and depending on how quick we could get counsel, what the bond attorney wants is, and the underwriter's attorney is, the counsel to ratify in person, so that there's no question regarding the validity of these the bond resolution that was adopted on September 8th. So,
You're talking in person, you mean at the council chambers?
yep.
Fine.
Yeah, so it would probably be nothing more than a 5-minute meeting, but and then as they were explaining, there's a lot of bond issues out there. That's kind of a normal activity just before elections to put a lot of paper out there, as they said, and so to be as competitive as you can, the earlier the better. But the pricing was supposed to be tomorrow. Oop. Are you getting any feedback from me again?
Little bit.
Are you?
Little.
Okay. Sure what to do about that. Hey, can you get Patrick as a panelist?
Yeah.
So I think Patrick actually, I'm not sure if we are going to
Okay.
share the screen or anything, but
Okay, he's on the, I gave him permission to be a panelist.
okay. Yeah, I think he's got.
Don't see where he, oh, there he is.
There
Okay.
he's popping in now, so.
Yeah, you seem better now, Vince, so I don't know what it was.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna turn the recording back on so I don't forget. Okay, so we're live on YouTube and we're recording. I've got Jeff Green and Chief White also in the waiting room. Do they need to be panelists?
During the work session, not necessarily Mr. Green, but he will be necessary for sure. You know what? Put him on as a panelist because there's a couple things I might want to talk about at the end of the work session that may require Jeff's input. And the chief
Yes.
White?
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's available to as an attendee and we need him, we can always just bring him in, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just noticed, I don't think I forwarded the minutes from the election commission meeting from July 20th, did I? I don't have them in my packet.
No.
No, okay, so we won't be able to approve those. We'll have to approve those at a future commission meeting. So we can probably just, I don't know when the next meeting will be. Matt, what's the best course of action there?
I would just make a note that they were inadvertently omitted from the packet and will be approved at the next available regularly scheduled meeting without
Okay.
objection.
Did the, shoot. I'm gonna forward you, did someone end up forwarding you I'm sorry to have to ask this, but somebody else was doing it. Did somebody forward you the list of election inspectors to appoint? Okay, I'm gonna forward that right now, if I can find it. All right, I'm forwarding it to you right now.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just wait a minute for that to connect
Yep,
because
one
we're at about 6:02 right now.
Just 1 second,
Okay,
because you'll need it. And if we can do it tonight, then we don't have to come back.
mhm. Hmm.
1 second. And one other person is looking for the link, so I'm going to forward that to them. All right. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, I think at this time, we'll call the Election Commission meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
Present.
one more,
Here.
Felder,
Here.
Whitman,
Here.
Nicoangeli,
Present.
Vining,
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Present. Clerk, on the next item, and I think you have a statement there, and then we can move on.
The next item will be approval of minutes from the Election Commission meeting held on July 20th, 2020. And for purposes of this meeting, they were inadvertently left out of the meeting packet. So we will just move forward and approve those at a future Election Commission meeting.
Okay, very well. And so moving on to commission action.
Commission action, the first item is resolution delegating duties to the clerk treasurer. That's the resolution we pass each election commission meeting prior to an election to allow me to basically carry out my statutory duties as clerk when it comes to the elections. So I will need a motion, which I've included there, and a roll call vote.
Okay, if there's no
Your Honor.
comment, Council Michelangelo, or Commissioner Michelangelo.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion regarding the resolution delegating duties to the clerk treasurer.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Michelangelo, supported by Commissioner Lamore on the resolution delegating duties. No further comments. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
The next item is the absent voter counting board, where we need to establish the report time and the location. They'll be reporting at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, November 3rd. We have them reporting to the third floor of City Hall. Depending on how many we end up having in total on that, we may bring them in first to the chambers at City Hall. So that's why I have an alternate location. So I just need a motion and we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilman Moore, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the absent voter counting boards 1, 2, and 3 will report at 7 a.m. Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020 to the third floor of City Hall with the alternate location of council chambers at City Hall.
Or Michelangelo.
Motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Michelangelo. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
We may have,
you lose her?
we
Yes.
might have just dropped her, I think.
Okay.
We can move forward.
Okay. Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, and we'll continue on, and I'm sure the Councilwoman Germaini will catch up here. We've just a technical virtual issue. Next item.
The next item is approval of election inspectors, precinct, AV board, and receiving board. We simply need a motion to approve that list as provided by the clerk treasurer.
Thank you, and those did come through. I'll see if there's any questions from the commissioners. If not, a motion. Councilman or Commissioner Lamore.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the election inspector assignment list as provided by clerk treasurer Lavoy.
Motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Felder. And Commissioner Germaini is coming back with us, and we just made the motion on the approval of inspectors, which was sent out hopefully to be reviewed. And I'll just say, call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
The next item is the public accuracy test. As you probably all recall, the Election Commission needs a quorum to conduct the public accuracy test and we're suggesting Tuesday, October 27th. We traditionally do it the Tuesday before the election. That will keep us within the law. And I left a blank for the time, and I did not include Zoom because I believe that given the nature of this election, we should have it face-to-face where the Election Commission actually comes in and feeds the ballots themselves into the tabulator. But we will need a time. I'm very flexible on the time, and I will just need a list of commissioners that want to take part in that.
Okay, we'll look at commissioners for their time. I'll start by saying I am available, and we'll be can start with at least one, see if other commissioners have that date open. And knowing not the exact time, we can fill in. So any other commissioners that might have time available?
I'm available.
Okay, Commissioner Germaini, Commissioner Lamore, and you need one more.
I need one more, yes.
I can be available.
Okay.
Okay, we'll start with those four. And of course, as we always do, if the complications come up, we can reach out to the other commissioners to see some adjustments can be made. No, we don't have the time, but I know that we'll get that soon and make sure that's appropriately posted for all, right?
Right. Well, and so I'm asking the commission to decide what time. I would schedule it for first thing in the morning because it's going to take a little bit longer, but that's if the commission can't make it until 10, that's fine. I just need you to tell me when you can be here.
I'm available at 9.
I'm available at 9.
I'm available too. I'll be there.
All
Okay,
right, so we have 9 o'clock on October 27th, and we'll just meet here at the clerk's office.
very good. And so you need a motion.
I need a motion.
Your Honor,
Commissioner Lamore,
yes, I'd like to make a motion to hold the public accuracy test for the November 2020 general election on Tuesday, October 27th, 2020 at 9 a.m. with the test conducted by the following members of the commission: Commissioner Germaini, Commissioner Lamore, Commissioner Whitman, and Commissioner Clark.
Second,
motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Germaini on the public accuracy test motion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
yes,
Mayor Clark.
Yes,
Finally, the last item is approval of resolution delegating authority to appoint election inspectors for the precincts, the AV boards, and the receiving board to the clerk treasurer. We did that in August, as you might recall, given the nature of 2020, et cetera. The whole situation is fluid right up through election day, and I need the authority to be able to go ahead and appoint election inspectors and move them around to different precincts as situation warrants, rather than coming back to the commission each time I have to make that adjustment. So if the commission is in approval of that, I'll need a motion and we'll take a roll call vote.
Michaelangeli.
Motion to approve the resolution delegating the authority to the clerk treasurer to make appointments of election inspectors for the November 3rd, 2020 general election.
Commissioner Felder.
Support.
Oh, very good. Thank you. There's a motion and a support by Commissioner Felder. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini?
She's
Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Michaelangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
yes,
Mayor Clark?
yes, and I think Commissioner Germaini's back for her vote.
All right.
Yes.
Germaini?
Yes.
Okay. The next item is clerk treasurer comments. I really have no comments, Your Honor. We have about 5,000 absentee ballots out, and we continue to build for 100% capacity of voters at both the AV Counting Board and the precincts, because quite frankly, we're just not sure what the numbers are going to look like in either location. So that's, I will continue to update everyone during council comments and then during the next 30 days.
Very well. Any commissioner comments? Seeing none. Clerk, any citizens' comments you may have received?
I have not received any, and I don't see anyone's hands raised.
Okay, well, if there's no citizens' comments, now would be the time. If not, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Whitman to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes,
Thank
the
you,
election
everyone.
commission is adjourned. I'll give you a second there, Clerk Treasurer, if you're, and then we'll move forward as you state.
I'm ready, sir.
Oh, very good. So at this time, we'll start the City Council work session meeting. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes, here.
Lamore,
Here.
Present.
Whitman,
Here.
Michaelangeli,
Present.
Vining,
Here,
Mayor Clark.
Present. I guess first item, the agenda. There's
Thank you.
some items that are on the agenda. I'll look to Mr. Pastu to start as we go through those items, and we'll see if there's time for other comments.
Thank you, Your Honor. Last year, in early part of November, the city, through traffic control order approved by City Council, converted West 7th and 8th Street from one-way to two-way. As part of that approval of the council, you asked to have a report a year later. We're about 11 months from when that took place, and so we'd like to present tonight a report regarding the one-year review of that conversion from one-way to two-way. Mr. Lewis and Chief McCormick will kind of talk a little bit about what they have. I think I'm not sure. I believe Mr. Lewis had sent to council over the weekend a traffic counts comparing last year as well as earlier a few weeks ago, and also the crash data report with that. So I'll let Mr. Lewis and Chief McCormick kind of walk through their findings with City Council.
Thank you. I guess we'll start with, I think Mr. Lewis.
All right, I figured I muted my mic, so I go first, right? So good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Patrick Lewis, Director of Engineering and Public Services, and Mr. Pastu. I apologize. I finally just sent you the report because I didn't realize that
You're
Mr.
okay.
Pastu was not on council. So he and I talked at length on Friday morning, but he hasn't seen the cover memo here. So hopefully there's nothing on there that surprises him. And I will probably punt the first part of this back to the chief because it came from his department. But I did break down in your cover memo that was included for this meeting. Kind of evaluated it 3 different ways. One was we took the data from the police department, which we didn't give you any of the raw data, but a summary memo from Chief McCormick that talked about kind of the before and after speed profile that they took on that. And then I have information. We did ask OHM advisors, Steve Loveland's team, to take traffic counts in the same locations, more or less, that they had taken them in the previous year when we were starting this study. So that goes back to that actually goes back to 2018 when the initial speed or traffic count data was taken. And then a summary, which I put together of the UD10 crash reports that came from the police department. They pulled all the data for crashes, and I had them pull 2018, 19, and 20. 20 obviously is to date, and those go through, I think, the end of August. I didn't have an end date on there specifically, but it was we have crashes showing up from August. So that gives you some idea of what the crashes look like. So I don't know if the chief wanted to go first or last. I guess since I'm talking, I'll continue and skip on to 2 and 3 unless chief would like to jump in with 1 first.
Chief McCormick.
Okay. I'll keep trucking along on. So basically item number 2 on the agenda or on the memo that I sent you. And I won't go into great detail on this. It's all kind of an OHM study, but sort of the overriding remark I can make on this is it behaved sort of the way we expected it to, with one exception. And that was for Mr. Loveland's conclusion, and I would agree with that, is it seemed like 8th Street actually picked up traffic versus 7th. And we expected some might shift to 6th Street, but there really wasn't a whole lot of change there. And the belief was that because the driveway was left open at the end of Cass Street from Kroger, to and from Kroger, that 8th Street actually picked up some traffic from the neighborhood in the township to the south of 8th Street, because then that became the most direct way in both directions, not just eastbound. They could then use it westbound. So that seemed to be what we found on that. Now the counts were taken at the intersections of, again, you can look at the report, so I don't want to give everything at length here, but we looked at the intersections of 6th, 7th, and 8th at Cass, and 6th, 7th, and 8th at Union. And then we kind of evaluated the patterns from there in hopes of coming up with a segmented count number. And where we used that for the data point was just west of Cass Street. The presumption was we didn't want to look at the block between Cass and Monroe Street because those hadn't changed. So, I mean, you can look at numbers. There's some up, there's some that are down. In general, it looked like 8th Street picked up, 7th picked up some times of the day, which I think we expected a little bit of that shifting around as you could now go both directions on 7th Street. But for the most part, there certainly were no operational concerns. None of the intersections exhibited any characteristics that they had too much traffic to handle at any one time. But for the most part, I think it operated the way we expected it to. So that's without going into any more detail, that's a good summary of that. The crash information I provided to you, I gave you 3 different spreadsheets. The first of that, which I thought I should elaborate on the details in case anyone was curious of the types of crashes, breaking those down. And I highlighted in yellow for you those that seem to be related to 7th and 8th Street. There's a lot of, I don't know how to characterize these best, but I call them petty crashes, if you will. Little things like somebody backing out into the street, not seeing a car, or backing into or heading into a parked car. You did have a couple that I would say fall into the hit and run category. In fact, a lot of the parked cars were hit and run type things. But when you really boiled them down and started looking at, and I'll say the third spreadsheet was what I called relevant crashes. And those were ones that, because of the way they're coded, UD10 reports are coded to the nearest intersection. So you had a lot of crashes that were showing up that may have been the intersection of 7th and Union. But when you started to distill those out and say, well, wait a minute, here's 2 of these 5 that were on Union to the north, and you had one that was related to the parking lot at Woodcraft Square, which was coded with the intersection. Those aren't at all remotely related either before or after. So the last spreadsheet really kind of tells the tale as far as what's appropriate to analyze and look at. And that was the intersections that were, or the crashes that were relevant. And so, for example, there were only a couple of places where in any given year you had more than one crash at or near an intersection that could be even remotely coded with this. And in totality, between 2018-19 and then 2020 through August, the total number of crashes on 8th Street was only 10, and the total number of crashes on 7th Street was only 10. And most importantly, you only had, in the entire pile, you only had 4 crashes that were injury related, and only 2 of those were relevant crashes. So very, very difficult to draw any statistical conclusions here based on just the extremely low number. I will say there was one of them that was coded in here that we found rather interesting. That was someone had a stuck gas pedal, actually plowed through their garage, then backed into a parked car, hit a tree on both sides. Yeah, it's on 8th Street, but it's not. I had to call it a relevant crash because it occurred there, but it really wasn't anything that had anything to do with the road geometry. So when you're looking at roadways with a traffic volume of about 3,000 cars a day on both 7th and 8th Street, and you're only looking at 2, 3, 4, 5, even 5 crashes a year, that's still an extremely low number. And we really couldn't find any that were specifically related to the geometric change. So I guess in short, it's working. We feel that the data on both of these 2 fronts show it's working, and I'll defer to the chief for the speed studies to talk about what he found.
Thanks, Patrick. Chief McCormick, if you could then on your correspondence, but also review of the information.
Thank you, Mayor. Honorable Mayor and Council, Charles McCormick, Chief of Police. So back in November, prior to the transition, we did set out some units to gather some data to give us kind of a baseline prior to the transition. Even then, at both, there would be a morning session and a late afternoon, trying to hit kind of the rush hours. There was at least 100 cars in each session would have been documented. When we talk the speeds, I mean, we're talking averages of 24 miles per hour prior and now to 23. Obviously, with those numbers, you're going to have some outliers, like a 30 miles an hour here and there, but relatively low speeds. We did it again in March, but really just have other needs in the community that aren't these 2 streets. So from a police perspective, the transition's been very good. And if anything, it has slowed a bit, which we had kind of assumed going into it with creating the 2-way traffic.
Thank you. I have a couple items, but I see Councilman Lamore has his hand raised, so we'll start with Brian.
Yes, thank you, Ar. Just wanted to ask Patrick a real quick question regarding the comparison between prior to the conversion and after the conversion, crash-wise. I mean, obviously, it's not a lot of crashes, but did you see a pickup or any of that after the conversion? Decline?
No, I mean, again, there were on 8th Street, we went from, and again, this is what we called relevant crashes. And again, keep in mind, if somebody pulls out a driveway 100 feet north of the intersection, it's not on 7th, it's not on 8th. But we had 3 crashes in 2018, 2 in 2019, and we've got 5 in 2020. For 7th Street, we had, and this is again, all intersections between Union and Cass. We didn't look at the Monroe Street data because almost all of those were angle crashes, someone misjudging the gap they had. And again, the first blocks of 7th and 8th Street between Monroe and Cass were always 2-way. That was not a change. So 7th Street went from 4 crashes in 2018 to 3 in 2019 and 3 in 2020. And again, I'll full disclosure, the 2020 data is only through August. So it's not necessarily a full year, but it's hard to draw any type of conclusions. That's why we kind of go back and default to what were those crashes on 8th Street. So, I mean, I can, in the first spreadsheet where I delineate what they are, I can tell you what they are. There were, in 2020, we had one that was somebody hit a parked vehicle on 8th Street. So there was no injuries there. We had one that was an angle crash where somebody blew a stop sign, and then the passenger got out and says, "Is everybody okay?" And they said, "Sure." And she says, "Okay, because I got drugs in the car," and then sped off. So I don't know if you would code that as a drug related or, alcohol is a factor. We had one that turned right and hit a parked car on 8th Street. She said, "Well, it was my first day doing DoorDash and I don't know the neighborhood." That's what she said in the report. So, I mean, that one might be more related to a pandemic issue of a new driver being unfamiliar with an area. You had one that was just a straight up failure to yield where the two were confused at an intersection. And then you had the one that I talked about that was the kind of the infamous where he had a supplemental gas pedal for an injury that his wife had, and he moved the car and he plowed through his garage and then threw it in reverse and went back into the street. So none of those are crashes, even though that represented a net increase on 8th Street anyway from the previous year. None of those seem to be any different than you would expect, regardless of if the street was one way or two way. So that's what we really look at, is not just gross numbers, especially when the numbers are really, really low, is what are the causes? Are any of these correctable or were caused by the change? And we just couldn't find any that looked like they were caused by the change or even exacerbated by the change.
Patrick, my question is for the chief, and I think that might lead right into your comment as we move forward. Chief, when you look at these, obviously, some know what the coding is when you talk about, severity. Of course, PDO versus a C and a B. There's only two that are classified that. Maybe for clarification for whether, for those that may be watching, of course, council, what that means. And then, because I know when we started this, there was a concern by the residents about, severity speed, which I think you've addressed what the average speed was or is, and also concerns about pedestrians, children, stuff like that. So I only see two that are coded different than PDO, which is property damage, just so we understand what that means.
Yep. Been a little while since I fell out of UD10, but see, certainly at every scene, the first questions out of the officer's mouth should be, is anybody hurt? Or so if there's a reported of, well, I'm okay, but my neck feels warm or something, that certainly would be recorded. And then if there is an actual transport, or we know there's hospitalization, that would be noted. So I don't believe in the anywhere near the majority of these. Are all probably at least the C, where no injuries noted or mentioned. For the amount of traffic you have on these two streets, for call it side streets, to me, very, very few accidents as compared to what you would see, I think, normally with this type of volume.
Thanks, Chief. And as we started going through the list there is one that, of course, that was a concern with the residents as well, whether it be children or pedestrians. And I see that one that I'll just say is semi-pedestrian related on a bicycle, but clearly the bike rode out in front of a motorcycle, which has caused the crash. So, of course, that's the one that's a B, which is obviously injuries present and next level up. So I raise it and want to go through that for council and for those that reading this report, what those mean and some of the concerns they had in trying to find if that was a factor or not, or a change. And these, at least this report and figures don't show that. So.
Yeah, and Your Honor, I would add to that too, that the C-level injuries typically are just possible injuries. And so
right.
that if they've complained about pain, like the gentleman that had a problem with his stuck accelerator pedal complained of knee pain. And so it was a possible injury. And then that B, of course, as you mentioned, is the bike. And that a B is that it was a non-incapacitating injury. And then, of course, an A level being an incapacitating injury. So even the bicyclist was a non-incapacitating injury. But and that's it. Like you said, there were only in the entire crash report in 3 years, there were only 4 injuries. And I've just told you about 2 of those that were 2020 crashes. So again, we're not expecting to see high severity type crashes based on the vehicle speeds.
Thank you. I'll see if the other council members have any questions for either Chief McCormick, Mr. Lewis, or even the city manager. Very well. I don't see any. Not sure. I know that this was on the agenda to be discussed. I don't know if clerk, you would have said if you received any comments or emails. We see none. Okay.
We haven't received anything.
Okay. Mr. Pastu, anything further on this?
I think part of it is we had talked at one point in time of doing, bringing after the report to consider bringing Harrison and Cass into 2A. given, the lateness of the calendar year, I'm not sure if you're still interested in it or wait till spring, but, we would have to contact the property owners along both of those streets as we have in the past and as we've committed to have that dialogue with them when contemplating a traffic control order to change those from one way to two way as well.
Okay, yeah, and I think, I know council has chatted about that. It's kind of the next step forward as we look at not only the streets around the downtown, but the downtown potential conversions. One item that looking in reports for the not just the current projects and road projects, the upcoming road projects, the alleyways, Harrison Cass are being looked at. I think we as a council talked about the importance of making sure those are in an appropriate fashion for use in relation to residents as those streets were designed. And the fact that's coming up in our next construction year and work year for roads, I think is kind of important to have done and to make the accommodations that some may need. Just my thought. I'll see if there's other comments from council on this topic of the review of the 1-year review. Councilman Michelangelo.
Thanks, Your Honor. I don't have a problem with holding off the conversion on the discussion on Cass and Harrison, as long as it doesn't turn out to be a political decision. These decisions are like the one we did on 7th and 8th. These decisions have to be based on kind of a broader context of what's going on in the community. And I would hate Cass and Harrison to get tied up in politics, considering the fact that 7th and 8th has actually worked as good, if not better, than what was anticipated. And the traffic volumes, I think the way I read the report, are actually less than what was projected in the modeling. So it works. That's my only concern.
Thanks, John. I agree. I think it does work. And I think if we address this early as we go, before we get into the project season, knowing what's going to be happening, have the discussion as we're moving forward, those alleyway projects are going to be done, whatever next steps are. But I think it'll also lend to the conversation of what needs is going to be beneficial to make it have these kind of results as well. Other comments from council? Brian.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just the other thing I wanted to point out is I want to make sure we have proper notification to the residents as well. That's a big thing to me. So I think that's maybe where we missed the boat a little bit on 7th and 8th, is it just give them the notification, let them know. I think that's one of the things that upset them the most. So as long as I think we give the notification for Harrison and Cass, I think, like we said, it works. Now they see it, proof's in the pudding. Why not?
So early and notification. And I agree with the council's comment. Mr. Pastu.
Well, if we're, bring this back to council to start the dialogue, if I started it in February, somewhere thereabouts, that's probably a good enough time in advance of the construction season. So I'll plan on doing that if council's fine with that.
Yep, I would say that'd be at the outlier end, but yes.
Sooner?
No, well, end of January.
Okay.
I think as we get into the year, whether it's the last meeting in January or the first in February, I think gives us the time frame to set some meetings, set some discussion, and have the input and concerns heard.
Very good.
And if council has other items or thoughts about it, obviously, just please forward those to the city manager, and we then can chat about them again. All right, I see no other comments. Mr. Pastu, the next item on your work session agenda.
I'm going to let Mr. Cochran talk a little bit about the request that he had received regarding a conveyance of property at 1619 Peter Street. Mark?
Mark, before I start, I just want to thank Chief McCormick and Patrick Lewis for their the report and the getting the information to us. Thanks to both of them and the staff. Mr. Cochran.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. As Mr. Pastu mentioned, I'm going to share my screen here so we can see the lot. The property owner at 1615 requested the ownership for the city to convey the vacant city-owned lot of 1619 Peter Street. His plan is just to make his yard bigger possibly sometime in the future, build a garage when finances allow him to do so. Past practice we've looked at when conveying city lots is to divide the parcel in half and offer one half to each property owner. In this case, both 1615 and 1619 are both 75 feet lots. The property on the other side, you can see 1621 is quite large. I think it's about 130 feet if I recall correctly, possibly more than that. So we're bringing this to you for your consideration and feedback tonight on your appetite and ideas related to this parcel.
Okay, John.
Thanks, Your Honor. A question for Mark. The lot widths for 15 and 19 are 35 feet, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming that the map that was given to us by the GIS, by the engineering department, shows a building on that lot. I'm assuming that building is gone.
Yeah, this is, it's an older aerial, but yes, the building's gone and it was torn down.
Okay, is there a potential, have we identified a sale price for the property?
No.
I guess my question is, or my comment is, Your Honor, I don't have a problem selling the lot to the individual that owns 1615, as long as we stipulate a condition in the sale that the future garage would be set back 10 feet from the principal structure. So we don't end up with the garage that's, well, two conditions. The first condition is that if we sell him the property, that property needs to be combined as one parcel. Therefore, the garage is an accessory building and it would have to be built in the rear yard setback.
Yep, and that's been past practice as well. When we do convey the lot, we make sure it's combined with the current property.
Those are good points. Thanks, John, because I think as council has been working on and staff has been working on when regarding zoning and other items of making sure that we're getting in sync with what that is and where we're going in many respects. So thank you. I'm gonna enlarge my screen here, see if there's other comments from council.
Yeah.
I don't see any. Mr. Pestu or Mark, further?
Yeah, so just a question, you want to sell the property and not convey it? In the past, we've conveyed them without fee.
Well, I think we should put a nominal fee on it.
Yeah, I guess, conveying is, we've looked at it when we were splitting and trying to release the city from some property that makes us have to tend to and have managed, being that it's not, I'll say a split, it's to somebody, I'd be liking to know what that might be. And I think it has to be reasonable because I think the idea the council has supported conveyance or purchase of property to improve neighborhoods and how that might be. So I think it's what's reasonable within that and by the administration.
Okay.
Other thoughts? I guess have those conversations and then I know we'll hear back. Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Just the one comment I have is I think because of the increase in the property that they're going to receive, they're going to have increased taxes as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. So from that sense, we're making something off of what we haven't been making pretty much anything on. So that's a good thing for the city. And I'm sure the homeowner is going to be glad to have that extra property as well. So win-win situation, in my opinion.
I think that's the consideration as you go forward when you talk about conveyance versus value and how do we make this work for a win, as you said, for both. I agree. Kelly.
Oh, I was just curious because I know in the past when we've talked about these conveyances, we didn't talk about fees. How do we know the difference of when we want to sell and when we want to convey?
I'll see if Mr. Pastu has a thought, part of it could
What's,
be.
yeah, what's unique about this one is that it would be conveyed to a single property owner. In the past, where we have, we usually end up splitting them to adjoining property owners. But I can't imagine, a 35-foot frontage is going to generate a lot of revenue. But there's also part of it is you have to. There's part of me that says there's got to be some consideration in the transaction, even if it's a nominal amount. So, well, but before it's just so you understand, it also has to come back to City Council for formal approval before the transaction is completed. So we can't do this administratively. It will come back to council. So.
Well, now, if I may, Mayor, most of the time when I receive these phone calls, people do inquire about purchasing them from us. So I don't think many people expect to acquire them free of charge.
And at the same time, the value of the lot, along with the taxes, that's the balanced conversation, I believe. Kelly, you had a follow up, and then I'll go to Andrew.
I was just curious in how that worked,
Yeah.
selling as opposed to conveying.
It's a good question. Andrew.
Serves, I believe that the cases in which we would convey properties free of charge as opposed to sell them, most of those incidents, I think, and correct my memory if I'm misunderstanding here, were cases of non-conforming lots or cases of just slivers of pieces of land. They weren't full buildable lots. And this being a full buildable lot that had a structure on it and presumably could again in the future, I think gives it a higher utility than some of the stuff that we've candidly tried to get rid of in the past that we just can't do anything with. You have these lots that are 40 feet long and a foot wide. I think those we were much more willing to just, if you want it, here it is, and then just pay the tax on it. But this is a full buildable lot, and I think that receiving some sort of nominal fee for it is prudent. There's not really any other seller that I can think of apart from the city that would just hand this to any potential buyers free of charge. So I'm not opposed to that.
Thank you. Good conversation, and we'll look forward to administration coming back with what they can have a conversation with the interested party and see how we can get this moving forward. I think it's, again, can be a win for both. Mr. Buds.
Your Honor, I was just going to say one other thing. I think to echo Councilman Felder's comments, generally speaking, the city wouldn't be in a legal position to just give away property either. Just to remind of that, it's mainly an issue where we have, I'll say, a maintenance problem where the cost of ongoing is going to be more difficult, can split a non-conforming lot. Those are the very limited circumstances, I think, where we've looked at that in the past. And I think that's kind of the standard we look at here, that I guess I'm just putting a legal spin on what's already been said, so I'll leave it there.
Very good. Thank you. See no further questions. I think, well, direction's there. We'll wait to hear back. Thanks, Mark. Vince?
He's not leaving.
Okay, I know he's not leaving.
He's got the next item. Mark?
Yep. So you'll recall the previous conversations we had about the city-owned property next to Scallywags. It's the narrow grass area between, or landscaped area between the parking lot and the Scallywags building. You'll recall the previous plans were to side the building with sort of the vinyl cedar shank siding and do a knee wall with vinyl rock siding for the landscaping next to the building. But the primary drivers for the request is to be able to add a small addition for a retail koi fish room on the front part of his building, and then also allow for the installation of double service doors near the rear of the building for loading and unloading and ease of access into the basement, because they're running out of storage space on the first floor and the basement is very hard to access. What City Council asked us to do is to continue to work with Mr. Kagris and the business to try and look at other more historically accurate or fitting sides for the side of the building rather than the vinyl siding. We've worked with him over the past couple months, Jeff Green, Annette, and I, and he does have lined up the restoration of the brickwork. So he's no longer going to use the vinyl, sort of the siding on the building. He is going to leave it brick, and Ohio Building Restoration is lined up to start the work that fall, as well as seal it off to prevent the moisture that's coming in the building. And they're also going to be installing the service doors near the back this year. In order for him to install those service doors and access the basement, we're bringing back this conversation to City Council to convey that property so that he can install the concrete pad and install the service doors near the rear of the building to access the basement. The plan hasn't changed to improve and maintain the landscaping along the side. Still with the dry rock riverbed landscaping, as well as the pondless waterfall feature, as well as the benches across the next to the former UNI building so that folks can sit there and relax, as well as improve the lighting in that alleyway going down to the parking lot. So nearing the end of construction season, we'd like to try and move this ahead if we possibly can. Again, Ohio Building Restoration will be on site, I believe, within the next couple of weeks to start and complete that work. And then the addition, the koi fish room, and the landscaping would be completed as early in the spring as we can possibly get. So that's an update to council, and wondering if with that update, if we can proceed in negotiations with conveyance of that property to Scott and Scallywags.
So
If you want
any questions from the council, I know that we had a brief discussion. Some of the asks have been, at least materials has been addressed. And I was glad to see that they contracted with OBR to do the work, a great company that does that kind of restoration, keep it more in line with where it is. So that's my start point. I'll see if there's other comments from council.
And this is being underwritten by the DDA as well. They've received support for not only the side, but also the facade work on the front of the building, I believe, for the work as well.
They did make the request for the investment grant for their facility, which the DDA did support. Any
Question, Your Honor?
Yes, John.
Mark, do we need to sell the property, or can we license the property to the property owner?
I guess we could talk to Mr. Buds about that. The thought about selling the property is because he is planning to make the addition of the koi fish room, which would be sort of a permanent structure and a permanent addition onto the building, as well as installing the rear doors would be, and the concrete pad would be sort of a permanent installation. So if it was just the landscaping, we would certainly think to do the license, but because he is looking at making some of those more permanent modifications, we were looking at the conveyance, certainly open to some restrictions like we did with the property next to the former UNI, that the work had to be completed in approval with the city, and if it wasn't done, it would revert back to us, and some of those things that I think we're all in agreement with as well.
Okay, the next question is, if we have to do conveyance, can we insert a deed restriction that got to maintain that open to the public to get access to the parking lot?
Yeah, that was the other thing, is we would maintain an easement and legal access for the sidewalk area as well. And all parties are in agreement.
I see Mr. Buzz has his hand raised, and I think that was in anticipation of that question. Mr. Buds.
Your Honor, yes. So it was in anticipation of that discussion that the framework we had talked about was a conveyance with a reserved easement for access across that parcel, not used. I'm certainly open to an alternative view, which could be essentially convey a license and easement for ingress and egress to the property owner, where we own the underlying fee interest except for the part that would be underneath what the improvements are, which then sort of gets into a, I'll say, more expensive probably survey of the property than the overall situation is worth. So trying to avoid that administrative expense was part of the idea, but I'll just say those are both, in my opinion, acceptable alternatives that can give the city some protection in whichever way we would proceed.
Very good. Other council questions? Oh, John, you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Another question. This is for Mr. Green. I think he's on.
He is.
Jeff, your overall observation on the proposed work that's going to be done?
Well, I think we made a quantum leap where we started back a few months ago. And again, as Mark was saying, we all kind of went over, talked with him, looked at the project, got Ohio Building Restoration out to look at the project and give them what I think is a good response to how to address that building. And again, even though it's going to take a little bit longer for Ohio Building to get there, I think in the end they will like the product. They're going to be doing some replacing of brick. They're going to be doing some painting on there. And so they are going to try to shore up that that portion of the building where they find it failing and take care of it. So I think it's a good response. It's actually a response that was recommended a number of years ago to the property owners.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. I'll see if there's any other comments. I don't see any hands. Thanks, Mark and Matt and Vince.
Mayor, can I just add one
yeah.
thing? We believe the next step would be to come forward with the conveyance agreement at the next city council meeting so that we can try and keep this moving ahead before the construction season passes. So
Thank you. That'd be great. I think things are really moving along. We don't want to stall it. So gets the work done. Thank you. Vince.
Yeah, I also had on the agenda the opportunity, if time permitted, to review some items on the regular agenda. And I do want to mention, if you will, on the regular agenda, we have scheduling public hearings for delinquent rental housing inspection invoices, delinquent blight boarded up invoices, and then also delinquent weed and grass cutting invoices. We typically have these on the council agenda in April. And if you recall, we basically held off putting these on the summer tax bill. And it really was at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. The thought was, the clerk treasurer, myself, and some of the departments are involved with individuals contesting it. And at that point, we were shut down at City Hall. And we thought it would be better to wait till the winter tax bill to do that. So therefore, while it's kind of out of the normal pattern, it is coming back, and we're requesting council to consider putting it on the December tax bill.
Mr. Pastor, I think these appear on the consent agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct, and they're scheduling just public hearings for each of those delinquent invoice groupings.
Okay.
The other item I want to, and I'll have Mr. Green kind of jump in here as well, is that we do have an obsolete property rehab exemption certificate transfer for 428 South Monroe and 50 West 5th. Mr. Green, if you could just give them a council a little background. That also is on the consent, and also Mr. Buds, if there's a need to talk a little bit about the process statutorily with this. So Jeff?
Sure. The property is 428 South Monroe Street and 50 West 5th. Most of you probably know it as the Benish Building. It was owned by PKB Holdings LLC, which was a family member of Mr. Benish, who undertook the project originally. And there have been a number of improvements made to the building over the last several years. However, the property has been up for sale, and the Guerin Group LLC has purchased the building, and they are asking for a transfer of the remaining tax exemption certificate. It's basically 2 years remaining on that, and they've asked if that could be transferred to them. transfers are a pretty regular or typical thing that we do with some of these properties that have Oprah certificates, exemptions. And we've done a number of them in the past. In fact, PKB Holdings received a transfer, and we included some of that paperwork in the attachments to the fact sheet tonight. But again, we support that, the recommendation for the transfer, and would recommend the same to City Council.
Is any follow-up questions at all? Thanks, Mr. Green.
Your Honor, just a couple other items that we'll have on the regular meeting. I know at the last work session, Dr. Corte came and spoke with council about the Monroe Community College village renewal, and you have a resolution. Council had asked to put a resolution of support, which is in your packet. And then also with the CDBG annual action plan public hearing at the September 8th meeting, there was some discussion. I understand, although I wasn't present, to see if it was possible to put some additional funds in for, I believe, demolitions, of which some of that was restructured in the action plan and will be discussed during the public hearing. We'll hold the public hearing tonight, but based on that, we would bring it back for City Council approval at the October 19th meeting. So.
Vince, I guess I have a question on the CDBG. I know we had conversations with council on that, and it's up for the public hearing as we do some introductory on different items. So is there any kind of introductory items to be discussed for that before the public hearing?
If we could, I'll have Mr. Green and Ms. Pierce, I believe, is also going to be present, just kind of do an introduction before the public hearing.
I think it'd be great. I think that, you know, these type of topics when you talk about that type of funding and opportunities, the asks are big and the requests we fill. And I think a review would give the community the opportunity to understand all that's entailed when you talk about community development block grant funds. So I appreciate that.
The other thing, Your Honor, and I'm going to ask if we have a few minutes. I'm not sure if council has anything. I don't. But maybe an opportunity for Mr. Buds, if he would like to, or should we wait till the regular meeting to talk about the Michigan Supreme Court's decision related to the governor's executive orders and you know, how that may affect a handful of decisions that we've made over the last 7 months. So if you prefer to wait till the regular meeting, that's fine. But also just we can, if Mr. Buds is comfortable talking now, we can cover it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that obviously these are available as well for the public review, and we can just make a comment to refer back if they weren't able to join this meeting. And I'm sure Mr. Buds will make maybe a briefer comment at the end or close of our regular city council meeting. But I think the time to hear the review would be advantageous because we'll be having schedule our meetings in the future and what the city's role and decisions will be. So I think it's good. I don't see any objections from council. So why don't we do that and then we'll go from there.
Your Honor and Council, it is, I'll say, interesting times in the legal world of COVID response and the decisions of our Supreme Court, which have kept me, I'll say, busy over the weekend and certainly today in trying to, I'll say, unravel where we stand. And so to give you a little bit of background, there was litigation that was filed in the federal district courts, essentially against Governor Whitmer's executive orders, the background of which came largely out of healthcare providers saying that the prohibition on elective surgeries at the time was inappropriate and that the governor had exceeded her authority. That has made its way through the court system. And I guess to give some background, you have to recall that we have two kind of independent tracks for the court system. We have our federal courts, which for us would be based out of Detroit with branch offices in Bay City and Ann Arbor and Flint and others. The Western District is based primarily out of Grand Rapids, but has other locations out that way. And that lawsuit was filed in the Western District of Michigan. when there is a situation and a federal court is making a decision that is based primarily or predominantly on state law, they can ask a state court for a decision or a certified question, they call it, on the validity or the question of state law. And here, this was a question of the governor's powers under Michigan statutes. And so the federal district court said, essentially, for lack of a better way to say it, dear Michigan Supreme Court, tell us what the state of the law is in Michigan on this issue, because it's not a federal question primarily. And so that issue finally made its way, and there was oral argument held and lots of briefing, and we got, I'll say, probably a longer opinion than I expected out of the Michigan Supreme Court, all sorts of divided opinions, and I'll just say the kind of things, law school questions will be asked about for years to come, probably. Essentially, the decision of the court was that the governor's orders exceeded her authority under the more recent act. So you'll hear about the 70s Act and the 40s Act for just a way to describe them in shorter form. And that the opinion was that she exceeded her authority by going beyond essentially the emergency period that was allowed without consulting with and getting the approval of the legislature. April 30th is going to be the key date for that to keep in your mind. And it was the court's opinion that any orders issued after April 30th, executive orders, were invalid. The court went on in a very divided, and I'll say along, generally speaking, political lines, a 4-3 decision, that she also did not have the authority under the older act to issue any orders because they constituted an unconstitutional delegation of legislative authority to the executive. That just sounds like a bunch of legal stuff to be able to say, and sounds good. Essentially, take it for the fact that at this point, the Supreme Court's saying the governor didn't have the authority to issue the orders that she did after April 30th. The interesting part about that, and why I tell you about the history of the case being a federal case, that's an opinion of the Michigan Supreme Court that isn't in a case technically pending before them between two parties. That's a question that's going to go back to the federal court for them to then issue an order or make a decision on what happens with it from that point forward. So we don't have an order. We don't have a judgment. We have an opinion of the Michigan Supreme Court. Now, that's going to be precedentially binding. There's other litigation that's pending, including that the legislature filed against the governor. And I think that that opinion is likely to stand and likely to become part of an order at some point here in the relatively near future. But we don't know what the federal court is going to do once that question's certified from a procedural standpoint. And so that puts us in a, I'll say, gray area on where these orders stand right now today. Now, I will tell you, I fully expect the Supreme Court's opinion has been made clear. They're going to say these are not valid. It's just a question of when and that is effective and what procedural mechanism is used to do that. Whether the federal court follows suit, we will see. And we then today had the governor ask Michigan Supreme Court for clarification. It's her opinion, the governor's opinion, that there's a 21-day period that applies before these orders become effective. That is somewhat of a, I'll say, quirk of Michigan law, in which normally when parties are involved in litigation, a judgment doesn't become final until 21 days after the court issues its ruling to allow for reconsideration if there were any rights to appeal to any higher court, that sort of thing. Here, it's not entirely clear whether that exists or not, because this wasn't an actual pending case in the state of Michigan. It was a certified question. So as of this afternoon, the governor has asked for clarification on when these orders are effective that will invalidate her executive orders. She's asked that that be October 30th to clarify that there's time to sort of unwind that, and I think to give time for the legislature and the governor to try to work out a solution here. I will tell you, it's my opinion, and it's certainly subject to, I'll say, differing opinions as all of this is, that right now today we stand under an executive order that is likely to be found to be invalid, but may quickly be replaced by the legislature. There's already pending legislation to allow these type of remote meetings during states of emergency and certain other things. So I am hopeful that we will have a legislative confirmation and fix in the near future. I don't think, I'm going to give a little bit more of my, I'll say, analysis on it. While I was, I'll say, reticent about Zoom meetings in the beginning, I think now under the circumstances, it makes sense and it has been working. And in some ways, I'll say, allows for more public comment and openness and transparency than even an in-person meeting would. I think that we'll see over historical reasons that it seems more, there's been more participation in our meetings than less during this period of time. And so if you accept that the purpose of the Open Meetings Act is to allow transparency and to allow participation, I think that that is being met. I will say that with that Supreme Court decision coming down late last week and the issue of its effective date still to be determined, I feel comfortable with our meetings proceeding, particularly because they were already noticed for Zoom, proceeding today. And then we will evaluate as we go forward, as the legislature takes action, as the Supreme Court takes action, what our appropriate next step is. There may be questions on that, but I'll say that's the analysis as to where we stand right now today.
Okay, that's a lot, and I think it's very informative, but I know that it'll take, as we continue to watch this, and council has been in tune to this, is updates as they come along, but I'll see if there's any questions or some other clarifications that council may be looking for that be beneficial to us, but also those that will be watching this now or later. John.
Thanks, Your Honor. Question for Matt. I noticed that late this afternoon, the Michigan Department of Health issued their orders for the state of Michigan. Now, how does that fit into all this?
If I may, Your Honor, so the way that works is, I will say, you now have a little bit of wrangling still now between the executive branch and the legislative branch within the state. This is Health and Human Services essentially now trying to kind of, I'll say, bootstrap together and put in place the same type of orders that were in place. That's under different statutory authority, which I will confess I haven't gone back to tie out entirely, but I believe is early 1900s legislation that came in response to the Spanish flu epidemic. So this is now, we're not saying it's governor's emergency powers authority, it's Health and Human Services public health under older legislation. Whether that will be subject to any challenge remains to be seen. I will say that I saw that they've issued that. It appears to in large part mirror what the governor had done previously and has, I believe, an October 31st deadline, if I saw correctly. That will give us some time potentially to evaluate that. Also, I've been paying attention. There have been a number of, I'll say it's largely been county health departments that have taken certain action on this. Most notably, I know Oakland County issued their own, I'll call it a mask mandate under the authority of the county health department to deal with public health emergencies. I don't know that we anticipate anything similar being issued by Monroe County at this point, but that remains to be seen. I think in large part, I will say it's my impression, the more that we can have consistency across at least regions or the entirety of the state, the easier it's going to be to administer and the better it will be from a public health perspective. That's my own 2 cents, not a legal conclusion, but it's very hard if one county is going to say no one needs to wear a mask and then the adjacent county is going to say don't leave your house at all. Not that I think that either of those need to be the extreme, but some reasonable middle ground seems to me to be the right place to deal with this from a public health perspective. So that remains to be seen, but at present, the state appears to be taking action under public health to implement many of the things that were discussed about. You also see the legislature starting to take action on some of the, what I think would be less controversial, such as these remote meetings, continuing as well.
I guess I'll follow up, Matt, just for in case council or others want to kind of track and follow that. I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. I thought it was Senate Bill 1108 or something like that. Do you happen to have that?
Yep. Let me get it here for just a second. I have it. Give me just
I have it. It's Senate Bill 1108 and House Bill 6207 pertaining to the virtual meetings. It's actually an amendment to the Open Meetings Act.
That's correct. Thank you, Clerk. It is from the Open Meetings Act. So I think those are some of the discussions that, as Mr. Buds mentioned, that we see where things it has been beneficial through remote meetings and really some opportunities that might present them in the future. So at least those are moving forward. It might take care of some of the local government needs. The other question I had was, I guess, has been shared is, as these come out, is there items which local government has positioned? I know the counties that you mentioned, those two have moved forward with something, others might. When it comes down to local jurisdictions, municipalities, and what they may take action. I know we are currently under the, collectively under the mayor's state of emergency. So just that clarification as well.
Yes, so broadly speaking, if it is not preempted by some contrary position of either state or federal law, then the local authority has, generally speaking, powers over public health, safety, and welfare, including our ability, which the mayor has interpreted, or I should say triggered, in order to declare a state of emergency. I do believe that the city would have fairly broad power under its emergency response to also implement certain responses. My suggestion on that is going to be that we now analyze what the state has put in place, if we see anything from the county, and then if we feel that there are missing pieces as far as that's concerned, or other things that would apply to us locally, that would be an appropriate step to look at and evaluate as far as any further response.
Thanks, Matt. I think it's the way the council knows that there's roles that we have and how we also operate that may be there. So we'll play it as it comes forward. Other thoughts or questions for Mr. Buds from council members on this topic?
Your Honor, I have something.
Yes.
You'll note that Mr. Buds pointed out that October 30th was going to be the date that some of these things that are being put in the interim will be coming to an end, which is the Friday before the election. So I just asked that, or maybe I'm just telling you that I'm going to be working very closely with Mr. Buds and council, and you as well, Your Honor, because what we don't want to have is a state of confusion. We don't want people to be disenfranchised on election day for a variety of reasons that could come out of a sudden end to some of these protections, orders, et cetera, that are put in place. So we absolutely have to follow the laws, and we'll see what all this comes out of it. But just want you, I'd like council to remain cognizant of the fact that the election is just a couple days after some of these expire. So we'll see what the best course of action is.
Thank you, Michelle. That's a good point. And of course, we right after that Friday is our first of the month for our council meeting. So talk about where people find us and opportunities for discussion and posting of meetings. So important. Thank you.
One other piece that I think maybe Mr. Pastou may want to speak with, and I don't know if that's going to be during the regular meeting or if we want to just make brief mention of it now, but there is, I'll just say, how do I say it? Bond counsel and the bond issuance process is very conservative by its very nature. And I'll let Mr. Pastou speak to that. And then if there's anything more I can weigh in on that, I'd be happy to do that, but we may need to take a in-person action based on that.
Thank you. Mr. Pastou?
Yes, late this afternoon, Mr. Sull and I had a call with bond counsel, our financial advisor, and the underwriters for the bond refinancing. Council approved a resolution at the September 8th meeting, authorized the refinancing of 3 different bonds. And the essence of it was done through remote technology approval, and now the validity of that action is in question because it wasn't done in person, compliant with the Open Meetings Act as it existed before. In fact, I will tell you, Mr. Sull had about 3 different calls tomorrow related to the pricing, if you will, for those bonds, and those have been postponed as a result of it. And so essentially what they're looking for is and this, again, both attorneys representing the bond counsel, they have to sign off on it in order to make it marketable, as well as the attorney representing the bond underwriter, is to, again, so that they're comfortable from a marketability standpoint that counsel take action in the open meeting, not a remote, meeting, ratifying. And it doesn't have to be another approval, it just has to be ratification of the September 8th bond authorization resolution. the essence of it is that they would, the market at this point in time, I guess, as they explained to Mr. Sell and I, is there's a bit of activity usually preceding an election where there's a lot of bonds out there. In order for us to be as competitive as we can from a timing standpoint, the sooner the better. You know, they could actually issue these bonds on Thursday if we were able to schedule a special meeting between now and Wednesday. So I don't know, Ed, did I miss anything in that, or did I cover most of it?
No, I think you got it. That was the worst remote meeting I've ever been on since this thing started. So I'm glad you were there to hear everything. But yeah, I think you got everything.
Well, you know, at the regular meeting, I guess what we'll do is, again, if everybody is still in town, I think that's an important, is to try and at least find out when. We would arrange the council chambers, very similar to what would happen when we did our closed session this last weekend, as far as spacing, you know, of council members and staff. So I wouldn't anticipate that it would be a very lengthy meeting. It'd be just get in, get out, and then we can give them notice that the action has taken place, and then they would look to doing the pricing as soon as they possibly could thereafter.
Vince, if you could repeat, what was the time frame you needed, wanted to, if we need to do this for the special meeting?
Well, you know, preferably by the end of the week, but I used by example, if they knew that you know, we could meet on Wednesday, that they could have the bond sale, the pricing take place on Thursday, as early as Thursday. I think if we go later in the week, we're probably looking at Tuesday or Wednesday of next week.
Let's make it work.
Do we know, I guess, are these conversations with legislators as well, that is an opportunity to make, be included? And I'm sure that was discussed on your meeting that you had with Mr. Seller, yourself, and all the others. Is, I know, I'm just trying to find ways that, you know, might be incorporated into legislative action.
I think that there is a good understanding, as they conveyed to Mr. Sell and I, practically every governmental jurisdiction in the state of Michigan, even state agencies like the Michigan State Housing Commission, is now going to redo their, ratify their prior bond authorization resolutions in a, you know, meeting in place, and rather, as opposed to using remote technology. So I can't help but think that the legislature is aware. And part of it is, you know, if it wasn't kind of the sense of urgency that was discussed with the underwriter and our financial advisor regarding what's going on in the market, typically this time of the year, and again, with all the other uncertainties that you have out there associated with the pandemic, their sense is the sooner you get in the market, the better.
Okay, Brian, you have a question?
Not necessarily a question, but so I guess Tuesday or Wednesday of this week is what you're looking for, Vince, for us to meet together?
We got to have 18-hour notice. So
I'll put it out there. What time are you thinking, and when would everybody be available together?
do you guys want to do a lunch on Wednesday? Or right after work, or what?
I'm game for the middle of the day or any time. Just, you know, give me the notice and I'll make sure I'm there for it.
Okay. Anytime that's not good. That's right, Andrew. That's right.
Is not the best for me.
That's correct. Yeah. So if we did 6 o'clock, would that work?
That would be fun.
Okay.
I'm anticipating this is only going to be like a 10-minute meeting. Yeah.
If that. Yeah.
What day? Wednesday?
Before you set the time, I as manager knows, I am traveling, and it's a 3-hour trip back. So 7 o'clock I would appreciate an extra hour to get back in time. Be willing to do that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know, or Mr. Mayor and Manager, I also don't know if early mornings are better for anyone else also. I don't know how that fits to the councilman's concerns or others.
That would work for me, but I don't think it's based on me. It's based on when the council as a whole. So, you know, we usually have our meetings in the evening. Everybody has their business hours during the day. I'll make my journey and come back. So
7 o'clock Wednesday, fine?
No, I have to drop my son off at daycare at 7:30.
No.
7 PM.
Oh, 7 PM. Yeah,
Yeah.
7 PM would work fine.
If you want to do it 8 o'clock, that's fine with me in the morning.
I can be there
Morning
anytime.
on a Wednesday would also work.
Okay. I got two 8 a.m.s.
8 AM, John's 8 AM or 7 at night's fine.
8 AM is preferable, but either or.
It works for me, but Kelly, I see you have your hand up.
I was just saying 8 AM is good for me.
That actually works much better for me.
I'm not council, but it works for me better.
Thank you.
Michelle?
I missed the time and the day. Is this Wednesday at 8 AM?
Yes.
That'll work. That's fine.
Okay, so let's plan on that. I think between Mr. Buds, the bond attorney, Pat McGow, and clerk treasurer Lavoy, will put together something with that. I know Matt's going to be traveling that day, so I think Catherine, his partner, will be there if need be.
I have a message to her to confirm that. I also am working with Mr. McGow to make sure that if he needs something standalone, or I'm going to say for all of council, in light of the, I'll just say, cloud that we're all currently operating under from a legal perspective, that I am suggesting we have an overall ratification of any actions that were taken by council from April 30th to the present, just so that we have something in our I'll say quiver to deal with that in the event that the legislature does not give us what I will call the anticipated Band-Aid to fix the situation, which I do think will be forthcoming, but I'd rather be overcautious and over-prepared than the reverse.
Very well. So we'll look for that post, and thank you, clerk treasurer, for 8 AM on Wednesday. And we'll have conversation again about this at the meeting. I think it's important to review at least, so we put opportunities, put message out as quickly as possible. I appreciate everybody's consideration for that early morning meeting.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
What are we calling this meeting?
It'll be a special meeting to ratify past council resolutions and actions, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
We'll come up with the title.
Yeah, good question.
Yep.
So we can share that publicly as well. I know we're running up to about 8 minutes to the regular council meeting. I'll see Vince, any final comments?
Nope, I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised or any, Brian?
Yeah, I just had, if Patrick's still on, I just had a quick question for him regarding the traffic committee minutes that were put out regarding John R.
Oh, yes.
Just wanted to make sure that that was clarified with the resident there and that she's in better standing with what we've come forward with on the traffic committee minutes.
Patrick?
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council, again, Patrick Lewis, Director of Engineering and Public Services. Yes, I did have a conversation with the resident in question that was concerned about was actually parking the vehicle in the area of concern. And I believe she understands the situation now that parking will be allowed on the east-west portion, just not to the north. So
perfect.
I believe it's resolved.
Thank you.
Very good. If there's no further questions for administration or thoughts, I think that we'll, at this time, adjourn the city council work session, and we have about 7 minutes to come right back on the same Zoom signing. Clerk, any directions, or I think we're set?
I think we're set.
All right. See you everybody soon. Clerk Treasurer, I see that we're getting onto the 7:30 timeframe, and we'll have a couple council members still logging in here, coming back from our work session. We'll start shortly.
I may ask Mr. Green, do you need Caitlin to be on the as a participant?
Yes, if we could, that would be helpful.
Michelle?
I don't see her name on the list. Is she on?
I don't see her on there yet either.
She should be, or shortly.
All right, well, when she comes on, I'll go ahead and add her.
Okay.
Okay, so we have all of council, and I'll wait as we get to clear to go.
I'm ready, Your Honor.
Okay, at this time, call the city council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Here.
Lamore,
Present.
Felder,
Present.
Whitman,
Here.
Mrs. Langely,
President,
Vining,
Here,
Mayor Clark.
Present.
can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can, Councilwoman.
Okay, I have an error message saying my speaker is not working.
Okay, we can hear, I can hear you. I'm looking for the clerk treasurer's affirmation, so I think
Yes.
we're okay for now, but if we do lose you, we'll communicate to make sure that we have everybody included, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Clerk, the invocation, and we'll follow with the pledge.
Guide our working together, give us wisdom to make the right decisions, your understanding to listen to each other, and your compassion to promote the peace and welfare of the residents of this community.
Thank you, y'all. Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
Flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic
for
for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll just say that one item in many of our virtual meetings, as well as others, when it comes to the Pledge of Allegiance, I think that's probably the best that we've done it collectively and staying together. It is a challenge and communication at the same time, so I appreciate that. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item are any amendments to the agenda.
I'll look to the administration to see if any items, Mr. Pastou.
We have no requested changes, Your Honor.
And I don't believe council has made any requested changes as well. Very well. So clerk, next item, please.
The next item is citizen comments not related to an agenda item, and I have one brief email to read into the record.
Okay, as we move forward with the comments, the clerk will start there. Just want to remind and review, as we have in the past, the kind of the rules of the chambers. For those that are joining us and listening, persons wishing to address the council, please raise your hand via the virtual meeting platform that alerts the clerk, who then will coordinate and organize those wishing to speak. The clerk treasurer will move a person to the platform to speak. Once recognized, please state your name, address, or your community of residency for the record. And unless further time is granted by council, persons shall limit their time to 3 minutes. There's also manners in which to send items to the council. Just as the clerk treasurer stated, she has one correspondence been received, and it says the clerk will looking for to submit those prior to the night's meeting. And the clerk treasurer will address the presiding officer and start the citizens' comments on the agenda, notifying them of their opportunity. I think that's kind of covered what I'd like to review this evening. So helping the clarification versus a meeting in person at the podium and virtual, just to coordinate. So we give everybody the opportunity to speak that is logging in, and also the manner in which the structure is done. Clerk Treasurer, need anything further? Thoughts?
No, I think that covers it. And then I did just want to mention that it appears that Councilwoman Vining has gone in and out a bit here. So it looks like she's back, but we have no video of her.
Okay, I see it's switching. Okay, there's the thumbs up. I see Councilwoman Vining, and I'm sure we'll have audio as well. So Clerk Treasurer, we'll start with the citizens' comments not related to an agenda item with the reading of your message.
All right. So I received this today from Sophie Langerman, and I'm not certain which community within Monroe County she resides in. It just says University of Michigan. Hello, my name is Sophie Langerman, and I'm working with Monroe Area Youth Alliance on our political advocacy initiatives. Unfortunately, I have meetings during tonight's town hall, but our group still wanted to submit our questions/concerns. We created a petition a couple of weeks ago located here, and there is an attachment about increasing transparency of the relationship between ICE and Monroe County law enforcement. We have several questions listed within our petition, which now has over 100 signatures, and would like to have the opportunity to address our community concerns with the city of Monroe. We'd love to see some of these concerns addressed this evening. However, our group is also looking to set up a separate meeting with council members if possible. She gave contact information. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to being in touch. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, I guess just a quick comment as we move forward, just so from the council and for those that are with us, when tonight's meeting is an official city council meeting. I know the email referenced the town hall meeting, and that might have definition for different people, but I just so I understand, tonight's meeting is the business of the council, but we do take all comments for public comments not related to agenda item. And they also have the opportunity to pull an item from the agenda if they wish to do so. I should have said that before. But a town hall in general is many times it's interpreted to be discussion on a topic or dialogue back and forth. But our citizens' comment time is the opportunity for people to raise items to the city and to the administration, and if appropriate, for follow-up. So I just wanted to clarify that. So those that may be calling in, I know I was able to search and find when notified this of the petition, a change.org petition, to see what the foundation of that was. And while it was sent out as an invite as a town hall, I just thought it was important for clarification of structure, but not to inhibit in any fashion those that wish to make comments this evening. So Clerk, you have read the first or the one item that was written in. So I see a couple participants have their hand raised. So I'll let you start that, and then I'll look forward to their introductions.
Right. There's a comment, it looks like, from Mr. Buds. So perhaps we should take that before we get going here.
Thank you. I kind of missed that one. I don't know how, but Mr. Buds.
Your Honor, I wasn't sure if you wanted to make brief comment as to the status of public meetings now, or if you wanted to wait until we were further into the council agenda as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, we could do that here. Yeah, we should probably do it up front because it is going to be a transition, and we have people on now that may not be later. So I think it's appropriate because we do have public comment later, but some make them now because they move forward. And I think it's from our work session, if you would make those. I know that we have people that are waiting to speak. If they could just hold their moment, and you can review some updates. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Your Honor. So just as a brief background, we did talk during the work session about the legal developments relating to the governor's executive orders, the Supreme Court's recent opinion in a federal court case on a certified question. And I guess I would direct members of the public, to the extent they wanted to view the more detailed comments, back to the recording of the work session. However, I will say at this point in time, we are living in, I'll say, legal interesting times as it relates to the governor's orders on COVID response, and including the appropriateness of conducting meetings via Zoom or other virtual means. It's my opinion that as we stand right now, while we have seen what the Supreme Court is likely to decide, what they have ruled the state of Michigan law to be, that has not yet been converted to a formal order of either a Michigan state court or a federal district court at this point in time, but was a certified question that was returned back to the federal court for further action. I do anticipate that we will see something in the very near future in that regard. However, in light of that, I think it's appropriate to continue, and more so I'll say in light of the purposes of the Open Meetings Act for transparency purposes and allowing the public to participate, the fact that this meeting has long been scheduled for a Zoom meeting, I thought it more appropriate to continue with that meeting as scheduled and to evaluate our future activities as the legal developments occur. I will also say that the state legislature is already acting upon to allow the continuance of remote meetings, and that I expect that that will come with some sort of a backward-looking Band-Aid that comes with it, though that remains to be seen. The Department of Health and Human Services for the state is also issuing additional executive orders relating to COVID response, and all of that is, I'll just say, happening, for lack of a better way to say it, hot and heavy, so we will continue to stay tuned on those items. But I felt it appropriate to continue with the Zoom meeting tonight and then reevaluate as those developments occur. One last piece is that the governor has asked for clarification from the Michigan Supreme Court that their order not be effective and binding as to Michigan state law for 21 days after it was issued. That remains a pending issue as of last I knew when she filed that motion this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Buds. I think it's good to do up front, as you asked, and we talked about, because we're still within the virtual meetings. We understand there may be transition, but there may also be some legislative support for fixing. So we'll look forward to moving forward. Clerk Treasurer Lavoy, are hands raised or comments to begin?
Yes, there are. So I have Tony, moving Tony into the queue. So Tony has been enabled to speak.
Hey, Tony, if you could identify yourself, please, and address or community of residency, please.
Hello, my name is Anthony Trujillo. My address is 13535 Dunlap, LaSalle, Michigan. I live in Monroe County, just to the south. I do vote and everything inside here, inside the county and all that stuff. And I have a business downtown, as probably most of you know. I appreciate all the work you guys have been doing in the last 8 to 9 months and before that, prior to COVID. But it's been a tough situation for downtown. It really has. I chair the board, the DDA. I have been for the last 5, maybe 6 months, and it's been quite the challenge. I've been able to work with the city managers and a couple other people. I've reached out and actually sat and talked to them about how we're going to move forward. As Mr. Budd said, with the new executive order, this throws a whole wrench into the whole dynamics of what we're going to do, what we can do. Are we going to get challenges downtown? Are we going to have people walk into the restaurants? Or are we going to set our own goals in our own city? I'm not sure where we're going to go with this, to the health department, who's going to make the laws for us, or if they're going to be laws or just guidance. But it's been very difficult. So I'm hoping that as a city and the city council members, that you guys will look at the downtown and say, look, we've got to move forward. I'm not saying that we just pull off the mask and run rampant, but we do have to somehow get our community back involved instead of sitting out there, just watching what's going to happen next. I don't like that feeling. It's really nerve-wracking for everybody. We can do it in a safe and orderly way, I think. I think we can do Halloween. I think we can do Christmas. I think we can do Thanksgiving. We need to open up downtown a little bit. I don't care what has to happen, but something has to happen from you guys to make this possible, because people can't come into the community and make decisions for you. You have to work as a group to make these decisions, say, look, we got to do something. And if it's working with the downtown businesses, which are very few and far between, but there's people trying to open businesses, which is a hard thing to do right now. I put my hat off to them. The reason I'm just speaking out is because you look at what's going on in Dundee. They're doing the Pumpkin Palooza, which is a big thing. Okay, it has been, I think it's their 2nd or 3rd year. It's a pretty cool thing. I've been out there to watch or look at the pumpkins, and it's very neat. Now, we didn't do anything for Halloween, maybe because we weren't asked or because nobody wanted to take the reins of everything, moving it forward. But all it did was take people from Monroe community and move them up to Dundee. So really, did we do anything better, or did we just we looked the other way and said, you guys go do what you want to do, but we're not going to do anything downtown. So that's really my gripe. I just wanted to open your eyes to what's happening downtown as a business person looking to pull people in. I'm not saying, like I said, just open it up, but we've got to work together somehow and either sit down with the business network, the DDA, and you guys as city managers and city council members. How far can we do this? How can we bring other things and get our community back on its feet and rolling forward and quit? I shouldn't say don't worry about it, because it is a worry. I worry about people walking in my business every day. I had 3 people challenge me today walking into the business without a mask. And I put my foot down, don't come in. And they look at me, what? Don't come in. You know how hard that is to tell somebody don't come into your business when you need the money? So it's pretty tough. So I just want you guys to just listen to me. See, I'm not the only business out there. There's quite a few. I appreciate you taking my comment and my question. I don't expect answers tonight, but I appreciate if you guys think about it, kick it around. Maybe we should open up, do something, work a little bit harder to try to make things safer. I don't care what it is, but we need to bring something downtown to get our community back on its feet and working together. This disparity of them against us is more rampant than us working together as a group.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Clerk Treasurer Lavoy.
I don't see any other hands raised, Your Honor.
Okay.
Oh, I do. There is another hand that just popped in.
Yep.
So one moment here.
Okay.
Lower hand. All right. We have Gretchen is in the queue and has been enabled to speak.
Okay, if you would, name and address and community of residency, understanding that this is a public meeting and regarding political statements or platforms are not what we do, but go ahead, please speak.
Okay, I just wanted to say hello. This is Gretchen Driscoll. I live at 320 North Hanover Street in Saline, Michigan. And I just was wanting to say hi. And since I can't be there in person because we're all virtual, I wanted to commend all of you for your service. And as a former mayor and council member, I know how hard the work is. And I know especially right now with COVID and I was listening to your business owner downtown. Obviously, it's a really important time for so many folks who are struggling so hard. And here in Saline, we're having the same issues and across the state and country. So I know you have a lot of important work today, but I just wanted you to know that I'm listening and I would be honored to represent you. And I understand a lot of the issues being a former long-serving mayor and working with all the businesses in our community. So thank you for the time tonight. And most importantly, thank you for your service and look forward to being a good partner for you. Thank you.
Thank you for calling. And it is a challenge here with the virtual meetings for some of those interactions of the past, but appreciate the call. Clerk Treasurer Lavoy.
The next person in the queue is Cole. One moment. All right, Cole is in the queue.
Okay, Cole, name, address, and community of residence. Thank you.
Hi, it's Cole. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. I live in 48162, and
is that city, township?
Oh, I guess it's city, right? Right behind the bowling alley that burned down.
Yep. The city of Monroe. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yep. So I just wanted to chime in on 2 points. One, that I support the transparency initiative. I know that we already actually had a meet and greet sort of thing with the sheriff and the potential sheriff to be potentially about these things, and they did agree with us, but I think there should be even more oversight, potentially even from the public when dealing with ICE detention facilities. So I did want to voice my agreement with that, but my main comment today was about the COVID thing, mostly because I just want to reiterate that, like, even though the mandate may be overturned, I think that we do need to be extremely careful. There's over 210,000 Americans, which is like 70 times more than who died in 9/11, have already lost their lives in our country. And like, I was thinking, if we walk off a building, gravity doesn't care who I vote for. It's not a politics issue. Like, people can get COVID or get disease or get cancer and die. It's science. We know how to combat it, and masks are one of our biggest defenses. So I'm really hoping that even if these orders go away, that City Council, the County of Monroe County, can put something in place to make sure that we are all being protected. And I do hope that even if city council meetings go back to being in person, that they will be a remote option, because like was mentioned by someone else already today, some of us are either immunocompromised or have disabilities and are unable to take the risk to join city council meetings. And I don't think that we should risk our lives to try to partake in our communities. So I am hoping that even if you go back to in person, that there is an opportunity for some of us to join virtually. And that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you, Cole. And I'll see if clerk, treasurer, if there's others. I'm going to just make a brief comment here because at our council work session, which is also taped and available on YouTube as is done through MPAC, the council did have some discussion, and attorney Mr. Buds did provide some background regarding much of those executive orders and actions and things where whether it be county or even local opportunities to continue along the line as Cole had stated. Clerk Treasurer Lavoie, other comments?
I see no other hands raised, Your Honor.
Very well then. Let's move forward. Next item, please.
The next item is a proclamation, item 2872, United Way Month, October 2020.
Well, thank you. As I think as council has, I'll just make a brief comment to this, and then the city council, the city of Monroe, the employees and the community have long supported the United Way, and every year they have their annual kickoff campaign for all the great work that they do within our community. In the past, we would have had opportunity to have a little presentation at the council on this. So I just want to briefly state that the proclamation is available. It's in support of all the work that is done. It's not one single donor, but it's an entity that cannot do it alone, but many of us together. The mission of the United Way from Monroe and Lenawee County is to improve the lives, and this year's campaign is Live United. I do want to give recognition to the chairpersons because it takes work and effort to stand up and volunteer in many respects, and this is one of those in our community. And Chip and Carrie Williams, who own a business downtown, are the chair this year. And of course, the labor chair is Candace Daisy from the UAW Local 723. So I would hope that opportunity is there for those on to support this, and the mayor and of course with full support of the city council on this proclamation, proclaim the month of October 2020 as a United Way month in Monroe. Unless there's any questions, we're looking for support and action on the proclamation.
Your Honor, I'll move that we support the proclamation for designating October 2020 as United Way Month in the city of Monroe.
I second.
Support the motion.
Okay, heard a couple there, so I'll say Councilman Langevin, a motion and support by Councilwoman Germaini. I think it's, I don't know that we have a motion on this. Is that correct, clerk? Or do we?
We don't usually.
We don't usually, but the idea is I thought it was an opportunity just to, of course, besides the proclamation was signed by all the council to make a verbal comment in support as well. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is a public hearing, item 2893, 2020-2021 CDBG Annual Action Plan Public Hearing. Public hearing to receive and review comments on the 2020-21 CDBG Annual Action Plan. And there are no comments on file in the clerk treasurer's office.
Very well. So looking at Mr. Pastu, I know that we've discussed as a council on this. We're here for the public hearing, and if Mr. Buds wants to correct me, I'm good with that too. If there's background we want to have before or after the public hearing, because there may be some items that somebody may want to speak on that is stated. So I see there's a hand raised, but I'm not sure what that's to. But I think the background, is that appropriate, Mr. Buds?
If I may, Your Honor, if we could just, prior to give the background, have Mr. Green and Ms. Pierce discuss the changes that were discussed at a work session on September 8th before you open the public hearing.
That'd be great. Thank you. So I'll look to Caitlin Pierce, I guess, is going to review those, or Mr. Green. I'll let them decide.
All right. I'll start off, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Pastu, Jeffrey Green, Director of Community Development for the City of Monroe. The Community Development Department has completed the draft of the annual action plan. This is our annual plan that we put together when we are outlining the use of funds for the upcoming year. This is in accordance with our 5-year consolidated plan. It's in accordance with HUD standards. And if you had a chance to look through the packet tonight that was attached, I think you'll see that there is a lot of work that goes into preparing the plan and getting it out there. Caitlin Pierce is the CDBG coordinator, and I'm going to be asking her if she'd like to kind of provide some highlights related to the budget coming up. There are a number of things that have been discussed over the past few weeks as we've been getting this ready and bringing it forward. And before I ask Caitlin to identify that, on a related matter, I did want to let you know that the amendment plan for the current year CDBG plan that all of you saw a few months ago, as we were going through this process and amending that, has went to HUD. It was approved by HUD and approved by the regional HUD office. So with no responses back, they liked everything that was sent in. And so again, I do want to thank and recognize Caitlin for a lot of the work that she put in on that to do that. So Caitlin, if you would like to give us a little bit of an update on the budget and some of the issues and things that are going on with that.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Caitlin Pierce, CDBG Coordinator, Community Development Department. This year, our budget was $458,973, which is an increase from last year's $451,000. About 70% of the budget is going towards major projects, the completion of Labor Park and ALCC, which we're very excited to get those completed so the residents can use those. And it was requested in the work session to add more funds to the blight budget. We did originally have $86,000 allocated for that. We do currently have $125,000 allocated for it. And we achieved that by putting on hold the down payment assistance program for this year, and the Greenwood Reading Pavilion would be put on hold for this year, with the intention of next year reinstating those programs. And we did also have 2 new requests this year, the Jab Academy, which is Joe's ALCC boxing, and Elm House, which is a group home for developmentally disabled adults. And if there are any questions, I am happy to answer.
Thank you, Caitlin, and thanks for the work on the correspondence there. That was nice to get that back from HUD to see that all the work is recognized and approved. So both to you and Mr. Green. I'll see if there's, I guess, just an update, and then we should go to the public hearing at this point, and then we'll see if council has comments afterwards. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing on item 2893, the 2020-21 CDBG Annual Action Plan Public Hearing. Any comments from those present this evening regarding the action plan? I see the clerk saying no.
I see no hands raised, Your Honor.
Any public comment regarding the CDBG Annual Action Plan? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and I'll go back to the council, see if there's any comments. If not, moving forward for a motion or any comments. Okay.
Your Honor, I just have one comment to make.
Yes, Councilman Lamore.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Green and Ms. Pierce, for your diligent work on this. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. We'll move, I guess we'll.
Your Honor, if I may, as we discussed during the work session, we'll bring this action plan back to City Council at the October 19th meeting, requesting approval at that time.
Yeah, I was pausing there because I was thinking it was now, but you're right, it was the 19th. So I appreciate that clarification for not only myself, but for those that are have zoomed in today. So again, thanks to Mr. Green and Caitlin for all your great work. I greatly appreciate it, and the presentation too. Clerk, next item, please.
Next item is under council action, item 2907, resolution of support Monroe County Community College millage renewal.
Thank you. I know that this was discussed at our last meeting and a request to come back. Mr. Pastu, anything further? If not, we could probably move forward.
Nothing more to add, Your Honor.
Resolution's attached. It's been reviewed. It's been open for any comment as well, but If not, I'll look to council for action on this item.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution of support for the Monroe County Community College for their ballot renewal for the November 2020 general election.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mike supported by Councilman Felder on item 2907, the resolution of support for the Monroe County Community College millage renewal. No further comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item under council action is item 2901, amendment to city manager employment agreement.
I think I'll probably just do a brief introduction. I think council and as we had set the personnel committee into a response to review this with the city manager's employment agreement. Councilman Michelangeli, Councilwoman Germaini, and myself met with human resources and others in this drafting of the amended employment agreement. Through some discussion, there are some items that are present if council wants to review or any further conversation. I know that council has, as we get to the end of the year, we'll have a formal kind of a performance or evaluation, I should have a better way to say it, review. But this is a step forward as we look not only to the current time frame, but moving forward with Mr. Pastou Vincent with his employment agreement. So I'll ask the other members of on the personnel committee if they had anything they wanted to add. There's a couple items in there, but I think it's along the lines of what we've heard from the council in support and continued arrangements with our city manager. I'll see if either the council member have anything. If not, we'll move forward for a motion. Councilwoman Germaini?
I just want to say, I want to thank Vince for being flexible in his agreement with the city.
Thank you. Councilman Michelangeli?
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to say that I thought the process went well with the personnel committee and the manager in HR. And I think the agreement does a couple of things. One, it extends the manager's contract for a number of years. It also addresses the city council goals and objectives about having in place a succession planning process, which I think is important. So some of those are the key elements that are in the new amended agreement.
Yes, thank you for reviewing those. I think that's important to state publicly as well.
Your Honor, I would move to approve the amended employment agreement between the city of Monroe and city manager Vince Pastou and authorize the mayor and clerk treasurer to sign the necessary contract.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Councilman Michelangeli, supported by Councilwoman Germaini on item 2901, the amendment to city manager employment agreement. Any further comments from council? Seeing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Before we move on to the consent agenda, I just also want to echo the for the council, but also the committee on how this worked and the flexibility, as Councilwoman Germaini said, in our discussions with the city manager. My thanks to Human Resources, our director, Peggy Howard, for her efforts in putting some of that information together and getting some of the language in place. And I always want to give Mr. Pastou the opportunity if he has any comments, and I'll just say this is good. So any comments, Vince?
Well, thank you, Your Honor, and City Council. You know, a few of you have heard me say this has actually been probably the most enjoyable employment arrangement I've had in my career, and I've been very fortunate. Good supportive council, a wonderful staff. I mean, you got a lot of terrific departments head here in Monroe, and just a good group of people to work with, and hopefully we continue to make more progress with a lot of the projects and program initiatives that we've identified with our goals and objectives over the next couple of years. So thank you.
Thank you, Vince. I know I've said it before. I just want to close with this on it regarding the relationship, which I think is very good with between council and city manager. It does bring us together on topics, but if you visit Mr. Pastu's office, I know it's not hard, it's not able to do at these remote times, but in the future, in the past, and I'll say in the future, there's one thing that's on his wall, and that's the goals and objectives for the city council set, but for delivery to the citizens and the residents here within the city. So I think that speaks to, he's never lost of looking up there and seeing where the focus is. So I appreciate that. Treasurer Lavoy.
The next item is the consent agenda, and for item B, approval of payments, the amount should read $1,492,639.03. 1,492,639.03.
Thank you. I'll start and ask if there's any items on the consent agenda that council wishes to have pulled for further discussion. I'll look for a raised hand or even a virtual raised hand here. If there's any items on the consent agenda council wishes to address. Also, as we do, if there's any items on the agenda, those that are within our virtual meeting today wish to have pulled for further discussion. Items on the consent agenda. I see no hands, Clerk Treasurer.
I see none either.
Okay, with that, a motion would be in order.
Your Honor?
Councilman Lamore.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda. All the items that are listed in it be carried out and recorded by the clerk.
Support.
There's a motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Whitman, that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, actions taken, and resolutions adopted in this case. No further comments. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
I have no further items, Your Honor.
We'll go to council comments at this time, and we're in October, so now we start with Councilwoman Germaini.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to thank the caller and businessman Tony to bring to light that we don't support our downtown businesses. We do support our downtown business, but I do agree that we do set dormant sometimes in supporting and getting ideas to bring them down. So I think we need to be mindful of the businesses because they are struggling so hard during this virus to get through these tough times. So I thank him for his call and opening our eyes. And I think we need to think outside of the box in the future on trying to get some traffic downtown. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Moore.
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree with Councilwoman Germaini. Thank you for the comments from Tony. He is a respected business owner in the community. And I believe strongly in his comments that we'd want to help in any way possible. And if there is something we need to do, we do need to think out of the box, but help us a little bit. If you have an idea, we'd like to play it forward and see what we can do to help you out. So thank you for bringing that to us, and bring forth the effort and letting us know what you want us to do, and we'll do our best to make it happen. That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Felder.
Thank you, Your Honor. Certainly thank you to Tony for attending the meeting and making his thoughts heard as relates to downtown and what council can do to help down there. I know that he and I talked earlier today, and I am having I have two events planned in the downtown later this month personally, as we reschedule office hours. It's the first office hours I've held since COVID occurred. So hopefully, as we reopen carefully and safely, we are able to continue to proceed cautiously but engage in our downtown businesses and make sure that they're able to survive this with the rest of us. So I'm very happy to do that, and I'm very excited for it. I certainly would like to thank as well all the attendees here this evening for advocating on behalf of what they're advocating for. Transparency is always should be a pretty simple thing to address and then to get a response on. I'd like to think that the city of Monroe is as transparent as possible, and more so perhaps than many of the surrounding townships, given that we record our meetings and archive them online for viewing. We have opportunities available for residents to comment virtually and attend virtually. As we move forward, I certainly think that we're going to try and work with the state legislature. I was talking with one of our representatives over the weekend to try and get his view on how we can proceed as a city and not be in violation of their interpretation of the Open Meetings Act, given the executive orders of Governor Whitmer. So transparency is certainly an important thing, and one I think that we can accomplish. And I'm sure, I hope that the city is going to follow up on this issue. It seems like a no-brainer to me. So thank you all for attending. I certainly appreciate the participation in local government. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Whitman.
Yes, I also want to thank Tony, and I think the conversation it sparked some thoughts of other things that we could do. And I hope that we get invested in doing that for our downtown. I received a phone call today from resident Kenny Brooks. He lives on 8th Street, and he's concerned about the two-way traffic, but his main concern is that they have a lot of strangers who are in their neighborhood now. People who drive faster, drive differently. It's not friendly as he's used to it. So his request was that we ask the chief of police to have more police patrol, you know, especially when the neighborhood people are out, because they seem to feel threatened by some of the people that are in their neighborhood. So I just thought, you know, I told him I would pass that on. In the beginning, he was very upset about the two-way, but as we talked, it was more about his fear about the changes. So I passed it on, and I hope everyone has a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I know that Chief McCormick was within our meeting, and then whether it be traffic or other concerns the residents may have, that administratively, I know he'll share that with the department and move forward some action, and we'll see if we'll get reports back here on any findings. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Council Michelangeli.
Yes, thanks, Your Honor. I noticed in the payables that we approved tonight, our quarterly payment to the County of Monroe for county prosecutor services. Just wanted to know from Vince and from Matt how that's going.
So I'll go to Mr. Pastu first,
Yeah.
and then to Mr. Buds, and then we'll see if there's any thoughts they have, but also if there's anything they foresee as we move forward in the future.
Well, I'm going to let Chief McCormick talk about it, because I know there's been the pandemic has had a big impact on court activities. So if you don't mind, Chief.
All right, we'll start with Chief McCormick and then see if Mr. Buds has from the, I'll say their operational side. Chief?
Honorable Mayor and Council, Charles McCormick, Chief of Police. Certainly just, you know, just these times are, I don't even know what to call it, but I've been very happy with the services provided by the prosecutor's office. The biggest issue that we're having, like every community in Michigan, is the slowed process. Every trial has to be approved by the Michigan Supreme Court of what goes to trial and when. So to be quite honest, a lot of the complaints we have of certain areas are people who are pending charges, many of which who have maybe a parole status, who will probably be going back to prison or certainly to jail, but it's just a matter of the courts opening up at more of a fluid rate than they are right now. So it's a very tedious and slow process, and we feel that it's adding to some of the issues we have here in our community. But again, we're no different than any community in Michigan, because everybody's facing the same challenges with the slowed court system.
Before I go to Mr. Buds, Councilman, any on that side, if there's any follow-ups or?
Yeah, I just, from the chief's point of view, is everything going okay relative to caseload and everything else besides the COVID?
Yes. Again, I think we're very happy with the choice of using the prosecutor's office and all the resources for criminal prosecutions. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Buds, I'll just give you the opportunity if there's any from relation from the city attorney to the prosecutor's office and representation for the city.
Your Honor, the only thing I will say is that, well, a few points. One, if there were issues, I believe I would hear about them from the chief or others, and we have not heard those. On certain issues that I'll say where there's overarching policy discussions that go back and forth, I'll say early on in the COVID response, right? What was going to be the prosecutorial outlook. There's certainly an open door of communication between myself and the prosecutor's office when there needs to be. I certainly don't express any displeasure when things are moving smoothly and things are moving as expected, which as the chief indicated they were. And I'll just make an overall comment on legal proceedings. Generally speaking, across the board, it's been a bit of a, well, I'll just say brave new world for all of us in that regard as well, in terms of some hearings translate fine to a Zoom hearing, things when it's the two attorneys making an oral argument about a motion. That certainly can be done by Zoom and has been done by Zoom. The ability to have a jury trial in front of a jury of your peers has certainly been impacted, and balancing that with COVID response and timely right to trial has been obviously a challenge for society in general. So I'm glad to see things are starting to move towards some availability. I know that we had jury trials starting here in Monroe recently, but as the chief indicated, it's on a fairly limited basis. And so it will be continued working, I'll say, between the judicial system, the prosecutor's office, and any input that I would need to have. But largely, it's a structural issue at this point that's across the board.
Councilman?
That's all, Your Honor. I mean, that's the question I had for the county prosecutor services. I thought we should some point get an evaluation on that in terms of the contract. The question I have, I think this may be for Mr. Sell or Patrick Lewis. I received an email and a phone call from a pilots out at the airport saying that the cost per gallon is roughly around 90 cents higher per gallon than the surrounding airports. And they were hoping that the price per gallon would come down to be a little bit more competitive. Just wanted to find out if that's being looked at in any detail.
Okay, thank you. I know Mr. Pastu or maybe Patrick.
If I may, Your Honor, I'll just take a quick shot at it. We're aware of it and looking at the rates that are being charged out there as well. You know, we know that the prices have dropped, and fuel flowage actually is probably one of the better means of underwriting the operation of the airport. But we did get the correspondence as well and are kind of taking a look at it.
Thanks. Councilman, I just see that in the payables as well, but I didn't calculate the price per gallon. So I appreciate you bringing that up as we manage that facility.
I will clarify too, we did actually drop the price this week to $4.25 for the 100 low lead from $4.90. So Mr. Sell and I did some computations of what we felt was appropriate given our purchase price, and did some corresponding comparison from airports around. And we do that fairly regularly, but we usually like to see it move a little bit before. We don't want to make adjustments every week or anything. So we did appreciate that that heads up that we were getting a little out of line, but we did make a correction this week on that.
Councilman?
Yeah, Your Honor, another question is, and this is primarily for Patrick Lewis, just a community update on the infrastructure installation going on at the former Lazy Boy site.
Okay. Honorable Mayor and Council, again, Patrick Lewis, Director of Engineering and Public Services. We are working on, as was said, obviously the building is fully demolished. Salem Bean Trucking and Excavating is they took a week or two off. They had some other commitments. Obviously, ours is not one where we're reliant on getting residents back in their driveways and things like that. So we've asked them to prioritize our street program right now. That's why their primary thrust is on Toll Street. But they plan to be back here in the next week or so. And they've got the storm sewer in, the sanitary sewer relocated for the eventual development to the east of what would be Huber Drive extended. And they plan on putting curbs and the roadway pavement in for the first 500 feet of Holiday Drive going east onto the site. So that would open that up that as soon as we have development that would like to go in those adjacent commercial sites, they could access it. We are going to hold off on putting the turn lane in on Telegraph Road because we do have a conflict with a traffic signal pole, and that work's not likely to occur till late winter, early spring. So that's the current status update on that.
Okay, thank you. And my last comment, Your Honor, I think the comments that Tony made relative to downtown businesses, I think the opportunity lies in the council actually moving forward with the principal shopping district so we can start accumulating some funds for promotion and event planning. I think that's kind of the missing part in our downtown strategy, is that we don't have an active promotion and events schedule or calendar. So hopefully somewhere along the line, we can revisit that at a workshop meeting and see what it's going to take maybe to get that implemented.
Well, if I may, Your Honor, we actually internally between Mr. Buds, Mr. Green, Ms. Knowles had that conversation about the need to reference, principal shopping district in our master plan. Mr. Green actually talked with the Citizens Planning Commission about there being a text amendment that will be identifying that in the downtown plan to go along with it, so that there isn't any question about the statutory authorization for it. So I'm not sure if we'll have it at the October meeting, but I mean, it's clearly just going to be pretty minor text amendment that would trigger that. Then obviously the 60-day notice period that would go with it.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. That's all I have.
Thanks, Councilman. Councilman Vining.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to congratulate Oaks of Righteousness. Yes, they're at it again. We opened our preschool today. It was the first day of preschool for Oaks Acorn Children's Village. And so that was a lot of work, working with the city to get all of the permits and get everything done. But we're finally here, and the children began today. Of course, due to COVID, we can't be at full capacity yet, but another wonderful addition to the Orchard neighborhood. I'm so happy about that. And since we have Patrick here, I was hoping he could give us an update on the Labor Park and the kitchen projects, since today is our original deadline. Obviously, we didn't meet that. So do you have any idea, Patrick, what we're looking at for a finish date?
Hi, Councilwoman. Yes, thank you. Actually, I think Saturday was our original finish date, so we've blown by it. But I think, given the circumstances, I think we all kind of expected it. And the challenge with the Labor Park project was that we are also dealing with not only the prime contractor there, but we've got 3 different vendors that are supplying equipment there: the play equipment, the shelter, the water feature, and we've had utility challenges there, and that we still can't seem to get the DTE poles in. They were supposed to start this week. I haven't seen them yet. So that's part of the challenge there. Is there's a lot of things to come in this week. So we should see that. The shelter is already up and built. And I know the Vortex unit, the water feature there, they've been working on that, some of the pumps, and they came down to our DPS shop and got those. So I still think we're probably looking at a couple of weeks to substantial completion. I will say, well, Clerk Treasurer Lavoie and I have had a number of conversations. I've threatened them within an inch of their lives if they're not finished up by the final week of October, because we want to keep everything open for the polling place. So that's where we are on that. The ALCC interior work, if you went in there now, you wouldn't think it was progressing well, because everything's still kind of torn up, but they actually have, they're actually making pretty good progress, and they're very comfortable that they should be more or less completed by the end of the month as well. So I guess we're at a critical couple of weeks here where we need decent weather to hold out so we can finish all the exterior work, but I'm reasonably confident that they will be largely completed by the end of the month.
Everything looks beautiful. I rode by today, and I think those are DTE stumps, not lights yet, but just the little bases. So maybe they were there So, yeah,
No,
but it looks really great. And yeah, we want to make sure before election day that we don't have any obstructions, and we need lighting, of course. It's
Yeah,
getting dark pretty early now, so.
Yeah, I promised our clerk treasurer that I would make arrangements to have portable lights brought in if we weren't able to get those done. But you may be correct. I actually didn't have the opportunity to visit the job site today. I had a couple other meetings that conflicted, and I just never made it there. So hopefully they did come today. And that's a good sign. Then if we have something that looks like they're pole bases, and so keep council informed here the rest of this month. I know I don't usually do a weekly report unless it's road construction, but I'll try to keep you all informed.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I just have a couple items. As we get through this year, and it is 2020, of course. And it just something I was reading today, and it was about the U.S. Census and how it seems so long ago that we started promoting that and the importance of that. And it's still not too late. The overall across the country, they're getting close to the 99%, I believe, area. I did not get our local results, but I just wanted to make one last opportunity to say to our community that if you have not been counted, it's not too late. And please go to the Census 2020 for assistance to be counted. And if you have concerns or questions of how to do that and you can't find it, please call City Hall. We'll get some way to get you connected to the Census Bureau to make sure we're counted, because of the importance, as we've all stated from the beginning. We talk about revenues and representation. All those are critically important. We talked about our CDBG funds. All those things count in the end, and we want everybody to be counted and everybody to be a participant. So that was my first comment. Second, on a different kind of a different note, items that come up in this time of the year seems to be sometimes when it gets a little more visible. When you talk about with our sign ordinance and the public right of way and signage, we just ask that the residents be mindful of that. It's easy to support whoever that is, and then just place it out in the terrace or the public place. But at the same time, there's other signs that get placed there. I know that I received some calls. I know the clerk treasurer received some calls. And so the last thing we want to do is have employees have to go around and remove signs, especially campaign signs. That is represented or seen the wrong way, so to speak. So we're asking, and I'm asking, to be mindful of that. So if you look outside and your personal signs or wherever they may be are between the sidewalk and the curb, that's the right of way. Please move them within to your private property on your residence and your lawns. Thank you. I'll just make a last comment, and my personal thanks, and on behalf of the council, to City Manager Pastou, and the compliments were stated for all the work. I just think we're thankful for the guidance that is provided, the work that's efforts that are put in. But as the Councilman Michelangelo said, really the component that we're looking at is the future as well, and the willingness and this participation when we talk about guidance and mentoring of our staff and the opportunities to see that within the staff. And as we look down the road, just as our long-term plans are, we're in a budgets out years in the future, how we manage that and how we prepare people so we don't have a gap in service and gap in leadership. So I want to thank Mr. Pastou again for that. Councilman Michelangelo, just a thought came to me on the principal shopping district. I agree as we move forward. I appreciate the comments to see where that's going internally to the building department. So we can have that. The DDA did within their budget this year put some additional funding in for, I'll say, marketing and promotions, but as you know, that's not going to get to where we need to be. But so it's a short term to hopefully get us to get some things out there this year. But for all that was said by the council and the call today, yeah, how do we get that moving forward as well? And how the best way to do that. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So those are my comments for this evening. Clerk Treasurer Lavoie.
I don't think I have any this evening, Your Honor.
Okay. I know there was our session and updates that were provided during the work session as well. And I always guide people back to that for a variety of topics. If they weren't able to kind of listen in, please do so. City Manager Pastou. Yep, you're muted.
Ken, I'd like to appreciate, council support and extending my contract for a couple more years. Also, just a reminder, Cat has to go away. That we'll have the notice out at 8 o'clock for 8 o'clock meeting Wednesday, October 7th, regarding the items we talked about during the work session. Thank you.
Mr. Pastu, if you could, or Mr. Bud, just the purpose for the meeting, I think will be helpful for those that are here. If there was why we are going to have that and the accommodations that are going to be made and the importance of it, quite honestly, for the city, if we miss this opportunity, why we're having this special meeting here within a very short turnaround from this meeting here today. I'll leave it to either one of you.
I'm being distracted by a cat, so I'll let Matt.
Mr. Buds, we'll go there.
Your Honor, the meeting is to, as we talked about, being some of the gray area that relates to the executive orders. The city has gone out for a bond issuance on a refinancing basis, and our bond counsel has indicated that in light of the Supreme Court's opinion, that there is at least some questionable concern as far as the bond underwriters are concerned, and so that they have asked us to have an in-person meeting to ratify that so that there are no questions. As I indicated, I expect the legislature is going to come with either some type of Band-Aid or fix in order to look back at what was done by I should say remote meeting per the executive orders to ratify all of that. However, in light of the timing of this bond issuance and the favorable terms that appear to be possible, we're going to, I'll say, take a belt and suspenders approach to that, have a quick in-person meeting. In order to do that, it will be an open public meeting. We will ask the clerk treasurer to send out email communication to the mayor and at least one council person, unless we were to make a motion tonight to schedule that. I know it's clearly been discussed, but we'll have to use one of those two mechanisms in order to get that formally scheduled. And then from there, we'll have that meeting on Wednesday. That's the purpose. Now, I will also say the other purpose that I will use that meeting for at that point then is to have City Council ratify all actions that have been taken since April 30th to essentially give that same belt and suspenders, not only to that bond issue, but to anything else that has occurred during the period of time from April 30th to the present. In the event that there isn't some legislative fix that comes along for that activity taken by remote meeting during that period of time.
Thank you. I see two hands raised. I'll go to Councilman Felder, then come back to Councilman Michelangelo.
A brief note, but not about Mr. Bud's comment. And I don't know if it's appropriate to say that now. I missed something in comment period.
Okay.
All right, I'll just make it very brief. Barry Leroy just completed an application to the county fund grant program, and I can't believe that I didn't include that in my comments. I just wanted to congratulate him and thank him for all his work on that. Having capable staff, which I believe the city of Monroe does, certainly pays dividends, and this is one of those examples that I just want to highlight. And I just feel so foolish for not for not including him in my comments. He certainly deserves it. Thank you, Barry, for all your work on this project. Thank you, Your Honor. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you, Councilman. I think it's good to bring up and not just the recognition for staff, but the great work and opportunities to get funding for important projects. Councilman Michelangelo, I think you might have a follow-up.
I did to Mr. Buds. I'm assuming our special meeting is going to be on October 7th, and we agreed at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion that we schedule a special meeting October 7th at 8 o'clock a.m. Monroe City Council chambers for the purpose of reviewing or approving documentation relative to ratification of actions council has taken during the COVID period.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman. I think that is appropriate to do so. There's a motion by Councilman Michelangelo, supported by Councilman Lamore, regarding a special meeting this coming Wednesday on this October 7th at 8 a.m. in council chambers for the, obviously the reason stated as was explained by Mr. Buds. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. I think we have a couple of hands raised. Before I get there, I just want to follow up to the conversation and the motion. The city council is very, has great awareness of the fact of when special meetings come up and making sure that we can get appropriate motions made, just as Clerk Treasurer Lavoy is. We always talk about, is this sufficient timing? You want to make sure you get that out there. Obviously, this is a very quick turnaround. We recognize that as we talked about it in the work session and just talked about here in the council meeting. But it's critically important that we take this action, because we could, on the bond issues, to make sure we do have in place and do from financial and position to get this resolved for the action taken for Wednesday morning. So we're very aware of early meeting or quick turnaround on meetings, and hope that that's understood as well by the public. Clerk Treasurer Lavoy, I did see a couple. If you could start the first, and we're mindful of the rules of the chamber and those that may come on, your name, address, or community of residence.
All right, William has had his hand up for a while, so I'll go first with William. He's been unable to speak.
Thank you. William, welcome.
Good evening, Your Honor. Good evening, City Council, City Clerk. I wanted to talk to you guys. I'm 501 Clark Street in Monroe, Michigan. I do not reside in the city of Monroe, but I am the NAACP president of the city branch. And I had some questions concerning you guys. There's two questions. One, concerning the cameras that you guys had purchased for law enforcement. I know back in July, Chief McCormick had stated something about funding and getting the necessary vendor to store those videos. But I have been getting some complaints or some concerns from citizens that are stating that these cameras were purchased and they have not been put into operation yet. And then the second question, if you can answer this, is how does a citizen go about making a formal complaint about something that needs to, or a grievance? How do they go about making a formal grievance about something that may need to be taken care of? That may be the responsibility of the city. It could be, i.e., cutting a tree limb down or getting salt thrown down on the ground, something of that nature.
Well, thank you, Mr. Parker. I see that the Chief McCormick's back. I know that there was a meeting or a couple meetings ago that he made he reported out on the cameras being operational. And then I'll leave it to Mr. Pastu. There's a variety of places. Of course, we have the Monroe on the Go app for people that could electronically submit items they'd wish to have a tree cut down or a blight or those issues. But there's also some internal things when you talk about operations and employment that Mr. Pastu would handle. So I think maybe Chief McCormick, if you want to respond to the first, and then I'll go to Mr. Pastu for the second.
Thank you, Mayor. Honorable Mayor and Council, Charles McCormick, Chief of Police. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but I think it was at the beginning of September or maybe in the end of August that all officers on the field wear body cameras, and it is a requirement. So they've been in service, I'd say, for at least a month.
Very well. Mr. Pastu, on the other, if there's anything further on some operational opportunities, how citizens can report, in regards to, we have the app, but also calls to the city as well.
Yes, I think, Your Honor, that's probably the best way to handle it, is use My Monroe on the Go app. It does get logged into our system, and we does circulate to the appropriate department for response. And there is some timelines regarding responding to that and escalation to other higher levels of city administration if things are not resolved. The other is just to call down to the city manager's office if there's something specific. Pat Weaver usually takes a very detailed message, and we can always follow up on it that way.
Thank you. Clerk Treasurer, other hands raised.
There is one other. It is Cody. Cody C. Cody C is in the queue.
Thanks. Cody, I know that we had public comment earlier. You came in on the during the public or one of the other items. I wasn't. I figured you'd still be here. So your name.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. If you could, name, address, or community of residence.
Cody Crutchfield, 426 South Macomb Street, Monroe, Michigan. My hand raising earlier was an accident, but I wanted to bring up an issue that I'm hoping can maybe be resolved before the first snow comes. It's about the ramp entrances to the river walk. I've noticed people going up and down there, in particular one woman who's wheelchair bound, and she expressed concerns to me about how steep that ramp can be and how it doesn't have any texture on it to keep her from sliding when it's wet or icy. I think that for the safety of her and other members of the community, perhaps the cement tiles there could be modified to have some gripping texture added to it so that her wheels may not slide when she goes down it. As well, she expressed concern that there weren't too many other easy entrances for her besides that and those on the extreme ends of the Riverwalk. And I was hoping that maybe sometime in the future, additional wheelchair accessible entrances could be added.
All right. Thank you, Cody, for your comments. Mr. Pastu's here. I'm sure he'll address those or discuss those with the staff. I think making sure the texture is right, something that's probably an easy fix, and we'll look at the long term on the other.
Yep, Mr. Lewis and I will take a look at it.
Very good. Thank you for your call. Clerk, I see another
There is one more. Maya is in the queue.
Maya, if you would, your name, address, or community of residence, please.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm Maya Zorn Kasperzak. I live in LaSalle, and I am representing the Monroe Area Youth Alliance today. I just wanted to reiterate the importance of transparency. I know that one of our members emailed Clerk Treasurer Lavoie, and I think that moving forward, we would love to set something up with City Council or County Commissioners. We've been trying to figure out the best way to address this situation. So I just wanted to reiterate that that importance. And if we want to set something up, I'm sure that we can be in contact.
All right, Maya, the email did go to the clerk. Obviously, we'll I'll say process that through internally, and maybe we see how to get a response back of the. Obviously, you want to be in the right arena for your conversation, and while we appreciate the information because it makes us aware as well, but we're looking for resolution from a discussion standpoint to make sure we're all in the right place to have that occur, and we'll look at that, and through the administration, I'm sure we'll get a response back to the. Her name is right now.
Yep.
That sent us the email. If that's fine. So.
Yep.
And I did want to confirm, Your Honor, for those that weren't here earlier, that letter was read into the record and it was previously forwarded to city administration before tonight's meeting. So.
Thank you. The name again, plece, because it's just not in front of me right now. The writer.
Sophie Langerman.
Thank you, Sophie's email. So we're all talking about the same one. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Are there other? I see no other hands raised.
I see no others either. Let's just give it 1 second because sometimes they pop up.
Mm-hmm.
No, I see no others.
Very well. With that, a motion would be in order to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Moore, supported by Councilman Felder to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Thank you, Clerk Treasurer, and thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. And I'll thank those that have called in. Good to see the staff as well.